Last week, as you'll recall, we talked about 7 principles for investors, 7 principles for those who do what we do for the long term. That is, we risk some capital and we pick carefully. We put a lot of effort in on the front end before we make a decision, and then we usually just let it go a lot of the time. Just in the best frozen terms, we just let them go. And indeed, those are many of our best picks, the ones that we just allow to grow over time. But I asked at the end of that podcast, I bet you have some principles. I've given you 7. What's your 8th? And I just wanted to share back at the start of this week's podcast some of my favorites, some of the ones that I've seen over the last week in no particular order. Scott answered 8th principle. Simple, 2 words. He wrote, fees matter. That's Scott, who's at golfer17059 on Twitter. And Scott, boy, do I agree with that. You know, it's a wonder to me how few people realize what they are paying for their financial management every year. A lot of people just kind of check that box on their 401k plan, select a few funds, don't really realize the fees that they're paying their funds. If you've got a good 401k plan, I hope you have good choice of funds, all of which should have low fees. It's called the expense ratio, the amount of money taken out of your holding each year as a percentage of what you hold. So, for example, if you have $10,000 in your 401k plan and your fund manager took out $100 from that, that would be a 1% expense ratio. A lot of Americans don't even know what fees they're paying in their funds, don't know what an expense ratio is. It couldn't be simpler math. Again, just how much you paid them as a percentage of how much you have each year. And fees matter. Fees matter a great deal. Next one up, Tobin Anthony, at Tobin Anthony on Twitter. Tobin wrote, a lot of times boring is better than buzz. May not get the same press as the hot ones, but will produce. That was Tobin's 8th principle. And here again, I agree. That's why I'm reading it on air. Good job, Tobin. You know, back in early Motley Fool days, we actually had a portfolio, one of those free online portfolios, back primarily when we were just an AOL site, that was called the Boring Portfolio. And the whole style and strategy of that portfolio, which was a good one, was to intentionally select incredibly boring companies. Now, I don't specifically target boring, but I have a lot of boring on both my Stock Advisor and Rule Breaker scorecards. Companies that just have acronyms as their name, like TDG, which is actually TransDigm Industries, but those kinds of companies, or just, you know, what they do isn't that exciting. How about FactSet Research Systems? That's a pick from 2009, still an active pick today in Rule Breakers, a company that really just kind of oversees lots of data, sometimes gets quoted in different financial articles. You'll see them opining about earnings, or they're keeping track of all the analysts. They're all about research and data. Very boring company. We recommended a 52. It's about 175 today. A boring triple over the course of the last 6 or 7 years. Casey's General Store is a recent pick I made in Motley Fool Stock Advisor. That's a pretty boring company. It's convenience stores in the Middle West. It doesn't sound like 3D printing or the next magic thing, but it's been a wonderful stock, not just in the few months we've had it, but really in the decade or so of growth leading up, and I think in the next decade. So boring. I like boring. Next one up, I'd like to highlight Junto Financial, at Junto Financial on Twitter. 8th principle, always other fish in the sea. Don't cry over missing the big one. And I agree with that as well. You know, Warren Buffett talks about how every time a stock comes down your pipe, it's like a pitch. It's like you're playing baseball and it's pitched at you, and you don't have to swing. We don't have to swing every single time. And if we didn't swing and it was a beautiful pitch, we shouldn't spend too much time worrying about that going forward. Right away, and the good news is this isn't baseball. You can go ahead and buy it even though you didn't have it the first time around or believe at first, or you can just not sweat that one because there's so many good stocks out there, and there are new companies coming public, some great businesses being born all the time. So I agree. I'm having fun, so I'm going to go with a few more here. Jason Newman, who I had an opportunity to highlight briefly last podcast, and his 90 stock portfolio that he's built up over time using Motley Fool services and all the success that he's had. And he said his 8th principle is be sure to share the experience with others. And I know Jason's not just a good guy and a good fool, but a father, among other things as well. And a lot of us are parents. That's a clear way that we can share. But friends, coworkers, Thanksgiving's coming up here in the United States of America. You've got a lot of opportunity to share it out, and that's such a beautiful point. Oh, and by the way, Jason's Twitter handle is at JNew4. You can follow all these wonderful fools if you like. We do. Matt Moorer at Moorer Power In wrote rule number 8 for him. It's fear-driven actions are almost always wrong. Flee a burning building, but the building has to actually be on fire. And a lot is said about fear and greed in the market, words I don't really like to use because they're kind of negative. I prefer, instead of fear, I like caution. And instead of greed, I like opportunity. But you're right. You're absolutely right, Matt, that a lot of our worst mistakes are made not just with money, but often in life, driven by fear. And in my experience anyway, fear is often just because somebody doesn't know, wasn't taught, doesn't understand. As I've sometimes been wont to do in speeches I've given over the years, I'll ask, when medieval map makers hadn't been to a place, what did they write in that corner of their maps? And they would write, "There be dragons." They didn't write, "I don't know, no one's ever gone there." No, the thing that they didn't know, that they hadn't explored, was a fearful thing to them. There be dragons. And we do there be dragons a lot, especially if we are new to investing or we don't understand the money world. It seems scary and we make some bad decisions. All right, one more. Deborah Gray, one of my favorite fools, a longtime Motley Fool member and now staffer, one of those people who's risen through the ranks of our community to become part of our team and our staff here at the Motley Fool. And Deborah wrote, rule number 8, pick companies that you want to learn more about. And there, too, again, boy, do I agree. One of the best ways to invest successfully over long periods of time is to ensure that you enjoy the process. And one of the best ways to ensure that you enjoy the process is to pick companies that fascinate you. It might be that you work in that industry, or it's your favorite hobby, or it might be just an interesting new frontier, something that, as an intellectually curious person, you'd like to know more about. I've often heard it said that everything we encounter over the course of our day or our lives either slightly attracts us or repels us, or sometimes more than slightly, but we're either attracted or repelled by what we're encountering on a regular basis. And when it comes to your stock market portfolio, I hope that you're attracted and that you pick stocks that give you energy, don't sap energy as you become a part owner and follow them over the course of time. You know, one of the things we do at the Motley Fool is we've created risk ratings. I'll talk about that in another podcast, but we've actually put a number on each stock that we cover that estimates its risk, the risk of holding it, the risk of losing quite a bit of money in that particular holding versus any other holding. And one of the questions we ask in our risk rating is, in so many words, what Deborah's just said. It's, will you enjoy following this company? It's actually about you, not about the stock, which shows us that risk is often subjective. It's not just an objective thing outside of you. You participate in this. If you enjoy following something, it's less risky for you because you're going to be learning, knowing, interested in it. If you're taking somebody else's tip, it's a company you don't really know about, but it sounds like a hot technology, and you're not really following it, that's riskier for you than it would be for me if I were opposite. All right, so really fun, and I'm going to do that in future podcasts. I enjoy asking our community, those fools who are listening in every week. I enjoy asking you things because you teach me a lot, and I like to share it back, which is what I just did.
As always, people on this program may have interest in the stocks they talk about, and the Motley Fool may have formal recommendations for or against. So don't buy or sell stocks based solely on what you hear. Learn more about rule breaker investing at rbi.fool.com.